We are live. What is happening, everybody? If everybody's having a fantastic start to your week. Slash already in. Like it, got the arm flex. I like it. So here's the thing. So we're getting through November here. We're kind of trugging along. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was getting your ride ready for the lower DA. Basically getting it ready for these lower temperatures that we're all going to be enjoying. And you can kind of see where the gears are starting to turn here. A lot of guys will start to look at this and go, man, this is fantastic. I got this build. It's done. It's ready. Let's get this thing to the track. Let's get some street hits with this thing. Let's see what this thing's gonna do. Let's see where all this money's been spent, right? Well, there's some things that you need to consider coming into these low DA environments and low DA conditions. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that, give you guys a little bit of some, reasoning behind what I do. And basically, your boy's looking out for you here. These are some situations will come up, especially when the DA starts to drop, temperatures start to get around, say, 40 degrees, anywhere between 40 and 50, this will start, but 40 degrees is basically the number. Anything less than that, and things get a little bit, or can get a little bit exciting. So let's get rolling. But first, let me say what's up to everybody making it in early. John Jones checking in and saying, what's happening, brother? Thank you for your time. Got the arm flex and the bump. I like it. Capscat saying, what's happening? Professor Mason got the ball guy and the arm flex. I like it. Thank you very much. Get this thing to where it's acting right. All right. So make sure my hair looks good. All right. So getting into it. First and foremost, say you've taken your car and thrown basically 3 or 4 months worth of money at it, the salary be damned, and we got ourselves a hot rod. Fantastic. Temperature starts to drop. Few things. First of all, assuming that everything went well leading up to this, make sure that you've got a fresh set of tires on these cars. So what happens is, and what typically will happen with guys, is that you'll put a combination together and you throw in a ton of power at it. During the hotter months, you don't really see this happen too often, but I mean, unless you just throw the coal at something, but guys will get these cars and start making street hits, and tow truck drivers are just salivating waiting on this. Guys will light the tires up on a hard, like 4.3 wide open throttle downshift at about 60, tires light up and cars end up in ditches. So guys, look, first and foremost, check your tires, make sure they're fit for the task. Especially for you guys that are running significant power. This is something that should come naturally. However, you would be surprised just how often this is the first thing that's going to be overlooked. And no, look, just because the tires have decent looking tread on them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are fit to perform. Listen, tires have a lifespan just like everything else. And to be honest with you, it's about 6 years. Anything over 6 years in a performance tire, you need to scrap it and get a new set of tires regardless of what the shape of them seems to look like. Especially if you're going to be putting them under high load. I mean, that is your connection to terra firma, right? So, just make sure that you're, running on a fresh set of tires. And we'll probably circle around to that a couple of times. But there's a couple of other things that you're going to want to take a look at, namely making sure that your tune and your hardware dealing with fueling is on point. So look, here's the deal. And this primarily applies to you boosted guys. So let's say that, beginning into fall, say, the summertime, you're looking to throw some power at the thing. You start collecting pulleys and you've got the headers, the exhaust, you got all these other hard parts. Make sure that your fuel system in general is fit for the task. In other words, if you're running significant boost through your car, make sure you've got enough fuel pump. Make sure you've got enough fuel injector. Also, make sure you're running the right fuel for your combination. So I'm going to talk about Hellcats here for just a minute because it's the thing that we're all the most familiar with, not to mention I got one sitting right back here at my 6. So here's the deal. When guys start throwing pulleys at these things, I am continually mesmerized by some of the bad advice that gets thrown around. with these cars that come from the factory with turbos or superchargers, and guys start to, ramp them up, especially with boost, and tune them up a little bit. If you are adding boost of any kind, I don't care if it's just a 9% lower or a Ripa lower or a Hellraiser upper or whatever, make sure that the car is tuned before you put that part on your car. You guys have heard me say it over and over and over again. You're probably sick of hearing me say it, but when the DA drops and you start making significant power, your air charge figures start going up, 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 that's when things can go significantly bad. I'll give you a perfect example of this. Little Miss Revlon, back in February, when she ran 1016, 1017, and 1019, and literally it went the reverse order back to back to back, went 1019, 1017, 1016. When she did that, injector duty cycle, I believe, was at about 92%. The car is running stock boost with just some extra fuel added for good measure. And it was at 90, I want to say it was like 92%, if memory serves me correctly. And this is in roughly negative 1,000 feet. I've since then made some other fueling changes to the tune with the anticipation that it'll probably get to about 96, 97-ish percent. That's more than I would prefer to have on any car, but it's still less than 100 in a worst or best case scenario, depending on how you want to look at it. But if you put a pulley on that car and now you're making more boost, wouldn't it only stand to reason that you would be eclipsing that 100% mark? Now, granted, yeah, if you're running more pressure or the computer sees that there's an issue, it'll start to try to ramp up pressure, and there's a little bit of a window there, but I don't really like trying to deal with windows. So first and foremost, if you're thinking about putting one of those Ripa-tuned Incognitus, one of the Hellraiser, or any other type of pulley on your car, it's going to have to be tuned because, well, quite frankly, just your airflow tables alone won't be able to manage the extra airflow. So I'll give you a practical example of that. Last weekend, I was at the track, and there was a guy with a Hellcat. I'm not even safe. It's a Challenger Charger, doesn't matter, with one of the Incognito pulleys. That car was running 1090 when it should have been running 1060, 1070, given the amount of power that it was making, and on the tire that it was being run on. So it was an 18-inch Bravado ET Street R. The problem, I'm sure, I didn't data log the car, but I'm pretty positive he was running out of injector duty cycle, or the car was hitting, well, more than likely it was yanking a ton of timing due to short-term knock retard. And immediately, you look at the car and you go, who tuned it? Well, it's not tuned, it's stock. This is on a night when the DA did finally actually drop down to like minus 200 feet. My car ran in basically flat DA. I went in plus 160, and in minus 27, the car went 1020s on stock boost. So that'll give you an idea. Yeah, the pulley might work well in higher altitudes, but at lower altitudes, that won't work. So the other side of this argument is making sure that you know where you live. I know that sounds kind of silly, but if you live in a lower physical altitude, putting any of those pulleys on your car is going to be a bad idea without a tune. So I'll leave it at that. Number one, fuel system. Number two, make sure the car is tuned. Data log your car too. Listen, if you're going to be into one of these types of vehicles, don't just take it on faith that everything is going just fine. Which brings me to my next point. Fuel quality. Look, you got to data log your runs. You need to know where you're getting your fuel. Taking away the Boostane and the Torco and all the other stuff. You need to make sure that you're running the proper fuel for your application, boost levels and vehicle weight loads, things like that. But the main thing here, make sure you're data logging your car, because once the temperatures start to drop on these boosted applications, load values go up, which is directly correlated to airflow. Boost pressure goes up. In other words, KPA is what we'll call it on the tuning side. You know, us nerds over here that are tuning this stuff or messing with it. Or, you know, for educated data loggers, you know, this is the stuff that they're looking at to make sure that when they see something going on with their car, they know immediately what to recognize. So this falls in lockstep with injector duty cycle, making sure you're looking at that, making sure that you're not getting yourself into a situation where you've got fuel quality issues. So here's the other thing. Parts of the country right now are starting to transfer into winter blend. Winter blend is going to be a little bit different than summer blend. So there's that. You know, you might see a little bit lower ethanol content in areas where you'd see a high ethanol content. Down here, we don't see much, maybe 5%, but it can go as high as 10. There's things to consider, and that's another reason why you need to be data logging your car. You need to be looking at the data, know how to interpolate at least injector duty cycle, knock sensor voltage, short-term knock retard values. These are all things that you have got to start paying attention to, because if you've been working on your car leading up to this and you're putting more power at it and you're wanting this thing to go faster, you're spending all of this money, this is part of the investment, not only in money, but in time and the education that you need to have to properly be able to have one of these things function at not only peak efficiency, but make sure that you're not running up against a situation that could cause the thing to fail for some reason. So there's that. So just keep that in the back of your mind, guys. And again, I know I can get a little bit preachy, and a lot of you guys go, easy for you. You've been doing this for a long time. Yeah, I've been doing parts of it for a long time, but I've been doing this stuff long enough to know that, or long enough to have experienced when I've caught issues through data logging. And I've helped to protect guys before they've injured or blown their cars up, saying, hey, listen, your data doesn't look right, or hey, let me get a data log on your car, you know, just to make sure, because I've got some concerns. And when I've had concerns, they've been well-founded. So, you know, I may be able to pick up on some things because I've been doing it for a long time. But that's why I'm trying to convey this to you guys. Just, again, make sure that you're staying on top of your data logging. It'll tell you a lot. And believe me, for you boosted guys, I mean, this is part of owning one of these modern vehicles. You can get away with some stuff with the older stuff. Like, you know, Foxy, if Foxy had an S-Trim or an old Powerdyne, yeah, I mean, I would probably just kind of do a mild tune, set it and forget it, and just know that I'm not leaving a lot on the table. Stuff like Little Miss Revlon and her, you know, more modified kin, you need to basically be a borderline expert at least being able to decipher what's going on with the car through a data log and recognize when things are going wrong. And I'll give you another example. Perfect example for you guys. Without getting too specific, was able to look at a data log from a guy who had recently had his car worked on. And in the pits, and you know, you get to talking to folks, like, yeah, it's doing this, doing that. I need to take this data log and send it to my tuner. So you mind if I take a look at it? You know, I can maybe straighten some things out for you, maybe give you an idea of what to tell the guy initially. Oh, by the way, body count on Skeeters tonight. Temperature's gone up. It's more humid. We're looking at 3 tonight. So anyway, I'm looking at the data log and it is jacked up. I mean, I've got pedal source that's going, you know, about the thing's bouncing off of rev limits. It's almost like somebody put a tune on the thing that had never been, what's the right word? They didn't really know what they were doing when they put the tune on this car. And this is a car that was pulleyed and several other things. Anyway, it should have been significantly faster than my car, and it wasn't. Well, it's because of all the problems. I'm looking at the data log and going, oh my God. And unfortunately, the gentleman that was going to be sending this to his tuner didn't have any idea what was going on. And he was thinking about making another pass. He was in the staging lanes going, dude, bad idea. You don't run your car back to back like that if it's having these types of issues. So anyway, know what you're doing. Don't just take anybody's word for it. This isn't a video game. It's real life. And if things break, they cost real money. So anyway, let me check in with you guys real quick. Let's see. Hilton Motors in saying, what up, B? Already talked to Captain Scat and John Jones. Michael Corleone's in, got the arm flex. I like it. Oh, he already called you out, didn't I? I think I did, but if not, here you go again. Michael saying, I like the glasses. Yeah, I usually don't wear my glasses, but I cannot see stuff that is close. So sometimes you'll see me kind of squinting and trying to read stuff on the screen. This just makes life a little bit easier. But thank you. Floyd saying, what up, Mr. B? Loving the Hellcat, but man, I got to get some tires on it. Looking for a good drag pack setup. Dark Stars, baby. Get your set of Dark Stars. If you're going to be running, I mean, you're local down here, I think, right? So, if, you know, ET Street R's, if you can get your hands on them, they'll be just fine. Get you to the track and back. I'm running these Hoosier drag bracket radials, and I'm really liking them, but I would not run them for any real length of time on the street. Chris is saying, seen your videos before I ever bought my Challenger, and I love it. I like it, man. Good deal. Let's see. Oh, some Ferrari guy saying 2015 5.0, PP1, 373 gears, MT82 car. Fun car to drive. Be a good closed circuit car. JLT cold air intake, headers with high flow cats, GT350 intake manifold with catback exhaust, and 93 octane tuned by Lund. Good enough to get in the 11s as long as I shift well. Yeah, it should. Yeah, in fact, that should be kind of a C-spot run type of an 11-second package. I know with me driving it, I'm not to say that I'm the best driver in the world, but I mean, you don't know how I get down with Foxy. Dude, that car would be in the 11s. Even with a set of just garden variety drag radials, it'd be in the 11s. Floyd saying, you going to the track Friday night? Yes, I will. I need to pick your brain about several things to do to be ready to make some passes. Come hit me up, brother. You know where I'll be. Front of the line, as always. Come get me. Just make sure my truck looks pretty, brother. Dude's got the sweetest 454 SSs. Destroyer saying, hey, Professor Mason, what's up, man? This is Destroyer 1320's in saying, DA in Arizona is getting good, but the tracks are closed. Frustrating. That sucks. Yeah, that's I hate to hear that. The boys running saying, yo, what's up, Dim? CFL James got the arm flex. I like it. Destroyer saying, hit that like, y'all. Yeah, hit the likes. Let's see. Kids checking and saying, my hot damn hell yeah Ram. I love it. 5.7 is awesome. Delete exhaust. 93.2 Kohler plugs. Got the shutter delete. That's the thing in the front that if you've got a Ram, you know what it is. It's a block off for airflow through the radiator. So fast and fun. Go Mopar. I love it. Saying he might add some nitrous. I like that. Let's see. Broklahoma checking in, saying, is a Hellcat throttle body on a ported 92 millimeter 6.4 intake manifold stage 2 HRT cam, stainless long tubes overkill? Yes, it is. Will my Challenger benefit with all of these mods? Thanks. I wouldn't run a Hellcat throttle body on there. 84 millimeter would be just fine. A lot of that has to do, and I literally just got through porting a 6.4 manifold. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the opening, shit. I'll be right back. Let me go get it, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Hang on. All right, so the reason that larger throttle body, that 92, is not going to do you a whole lot of favors. Hang on. All right. I feel like I'm about to start doing some ventriloquisms here. If you look, you can see how much material I've actually taken out of there. I actually have to go through here and resculpt all of this in that throat area. These things take forever to do. But the problem is that this bend right there, see how it kind of crimps down and makes that turn? There's not a lot of room in there. There is not enough room to flow what a 92 millimeter would flow, but there's plenty for an 84 or an 85. I port mine to a through ported area of roughly 85 to 86 millimeters. So anyway, and then of course I hit the runners real hard. This one was fairly clean. Where did I put my, where the hell did it go? That thing disappeared. Here we go. This one was fairly clean, but anyway, that'll give you an idea. Let me show you that again. You can see what I'm talking about. But that's what they look like. That's what the throat looks like when I'm done porting them. And this part right here, see where it kind of dips down? That gets a lot of love. And then the back part of the throat gets a lot, but it's mostly in that short side. Right here, mostly in that short side. I'm taking a lot of material off over there. And you got to be careful because the castings on these things vary a little bit. This one actually was a thick casting. I was able to remove a lot of material. Some of them are a little bit thinner than others. Some of the older ones are a little bit thinner anyway. Anyway, this is, oh, good Lord. Anyway, that's what the ports end up looking like. Opened up all the way through there. So, you see that? It's kind of hard to hold the thing here. So I go pretty far up in there, get all the casting flash out, all the rough edges, all the ledges and all that kind of stuff. I get all that taken care of. So let me put this back in the box. The visual aid portion is now over. Let me go put this thing back up. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. And that's coming from the guy that's actually cutting on that intake manifold. All right. Floyd's asking, are you familiar with the Ford Star D5 drag pack setup? Yep. 18 by 5s and 17 by 10s? Yep. Are they well-built wheels? Yes, they are. Any issues with 10-inch wide on the back, 305, 45, 17s? You'll have to clearance your, well, I say clearance. You'll have to move your inner fender around a little bit, but I can show you what I'm talking about. I've also got a video on here showing how to do that. It's real easy. It sounds, there's nothing to it. All you need is I don't know, like a, maybe even maybe not even like a 1/4 inch drill bit. You're just going to be moving some plastic around. It's nothing. Reusing existing push pins. Let's see. Captain Scat saying, I'm still ways off from racing my 5.7 Challenger. It's getting tuned at Dr. Diff via HP Tuners now. Very good. How often should I data log the car after the initial tune is installed? Any recommended intervals? I would say anytime the weather changes significantly, just keep an eye on things. You're going to be NA, so you're not looking at a lot of variance, but you're going to want to just keep an eye on it. If nothing else, it keeps you involved with the car, but you're looking at fuel quality primarily at that point. So anytime you get any significant weather changes. Kevin Collins saying, what's up, Mason? He's got the arm flex. I like it. Captain Scat saying, Foxy looks amazing. You've been putting work in on her and it shows. Yeah, I mean, she's shiny. It just sucks. That paint is so old. And I mean, you can't really see some of the issues that are with it, luckily. But I appreciate the kind words. But yeah, I put in a lot of work to get her to that point. So yeah, she was pretty rough when I got her back. So she's a lot better now. Let's see. Nonex saying, how are you? Doing well. I hope you're doing well too. Saying, do you think I should put a cleaner like Chevron for the fuel system or WD-40 manifold cleaner before installing the P1 SC? The throttle body looks clean from the outside and it idles good. Yeah, the WD-40 manifold cleaner you probably get away with. I wouldn't necessarily worry about running. Well, you could run the Chevron too. You're not going to hurt anything. I just don't know how much good it's going to do. I can tell you how, depending on the number of miles that are on the car, I can tell you what I have to do cleaning some of these intake manifolds before I can even get started working on them. And it has nothing to do with solvents or anything like that. I mean, I'm basically saturating the thing in simple green, letting it sit for a little bit and mechanically like removing crap from these things. So I don't know that the cleaner in general is going to do that much for you. I mean, if you've had it on a cleaning regimen, it might work, but I just don't see it doing too much. I'm going to fire this fan up because it's hot down here in Southeast Texas. Dadgum. Can't believe how hot it is too. Freaking 80 something degrees in November. I mean, what's up with that? Let's see. Kids asking, is that a Ford? Yes, it is. Sitting right behind me. My first Fox body Mustang. Been in the family and I've had it for 20 something years. Modern Red Heavy saying, what's up? Beat up the arm flex. Saying my car is down right now. I think it's either rocker or lifter related. Got the dreaded Hemi tick pretty bad. Once fixed, looking for that Pro Charger weather for sure. I like it. Zach seems saying my DA is so low here. There is 2 feet of snow. That would be a good indicator. Let's see. CFL's asking, what's the average cost to do a 6.4 intake? Also, should it be from the actual car versus new one for proper fit, just in case? So here's the thing. You know, most shops are going to charge somewhere around $400 for a ported intake. I think I can't remember what MMX's cost, but then there's the shipping that's involved and all of that. So, you know, 400-ish for the time that you're going to put into it. It takes a good number of hours to get them done right. I mean, it takes me a while to get these things done. Admittedly, I am a little bit more meticulous with how I do things than others may be, but at least from what I've seen, which is one of the reasons why I got into doing it in the beginning. But that being said, that's about the number that you're looking at. So I would figure in that plus the cost of a throttle body to go along with it. Think of it as a good supporting mod, and it depends on how bad your intake manifold is as to how much power you're going to pick up. The most I've ever picked up was 13 horsepower, and that was on an intake that was pretty rough. Some of the 5.7 cars seem to benefit from it just in general. It bumps the entire power curve up a little bit. You know, 5 to 8 horsepower with the throttle body and the intake porting, give or take. So, but it picks up everywhere and doesn't sound like a lot, but it's funny because these Mopars, I think the horses are just bigger or something, because there's a noticeable difference between having it and not having it, especially with that throttle body. You really need the throttle body to round out that package. But you know, if you get a cam, they really work nice. Let's see, Floyd's asking, I see you can buy a new 309 rear diff from Dodge for around $750. Is that really a plug and play install? No tune needed? That is correct. However, I will say this, for the Hellcat, you're gonna want to do one of two things. Either get a tune, so you, at bare minimum, adjust driver command torque, which is pedal sensitivity, or get you a pedal commander. And the reason why is it's a little bit counterintuitive, but when you put the 309 in the car, it'll feel softer. It won't feel as responsive. The reason for that is that there's just simply nothing for the engine to push against. It's a significant enough gear drop to where there's just not enough, how do you put it? It just doesn't feel like it's pushing against anything. So it just kind of feels soft. So what typically will happen is you throw like 10% driver command torque, which is to say that you're just ramping up the pedal sensitivity a little bit, and from there it'll start to be a little bit peppier. You'll feel the gear a little bit more. Now, that being said, when you roll into the throttle and get the thing at a boost, you'll figure out really quickly what the difference is between a 309 and a 262 gear. It's just getting that out of boost throttle response back when you're in gear, especially when you're in like 8th gear, 7th gear, 6th gear. It's getting that back, or if you're doing a kind of a somewhat hard roll on in like 3rd gear, 4th gear. You can get a pedal commander and basically achieve the same thing, which is what a lot of guys do. You just gotta get the pedal commander and just go a couple of bumps up on the sensitivity, and it basically does the same thing. Costs you a whole lot less. Redline motor oil is the bomb for Hemi-Tick. Well, depends on what Hemi-Tick you're talking about, and there is no such thing as an oil that will fix a broken lifter. So there's that. Let's see, CFL saying, yes, that's you doing it. I have a Fastman 84 millimeter. Oh, talking about the manifold. Right now, due to time constraints, I am only porting for certain shops. I may open that back up, but to normal folks. But right now, I'm only working for the trade right now. But you can always get a hold of Dr. Differential, because that's who I am currently porting manifolds for. A couple of other folks, but that's who I'm focusing on right now. Mustang Lab saying, hey, remember me? Sure. Rhino's saying Whipple Turbo or Pro Charger for a Ram 1500. All depends on what you want. They're all completely different power delivery systems in terms of their compressor style. So you want to go real fast? A turbo will be the most efficient, but it's not the cleanest in terms of install. It's a little bit on the sloppy side. Personally, for a truck, I like the Whipples, but I wouldn't really go Pro Charger unless you are willing to do a couple of things, and that is, I mean, look, we're talking 392 gear if it doesn't already have it, plus you're going to want a significantly more aggressive torque converter, drag pack, the whole bit. You're going to want to, it's more than just the Pro Charger or the Whipple or the Turbo. Really, it's the package in general. The Whipples are nice. They're real responsive, real torquey. They're a lot of fun to drive on the street. May not necessarily be the fastest at the drag strip, but they are going to be a lot of fun just in general. So, it's like asking me to pick my favorite ice cream. It's like asking me to pick my favorite beer. There's certain things that you just don't have an end-all, be-all favorite. Like if I'm going to be stuck on a desert island, what would you want? Turbo Whipple Pro Charger? I don't know. It's just hard to tell. Depends on what my mood is for my favorite. But I like the Whipple just in general because it's a positive displacement supercharger, makes the engine just act like it's a lot bigger. Plus the install is super clean. So that would be my first if it were just me. Freddie's going, Professor Mason, what is happening? I like it. Saying, I have a 90 Fox 5.0 all stock with 53,000 miles. No kidding. What do you think of a power adder versus stroking the motor, looking for around 4 to 450 horsepower? If it's me, old school, find you an S trim, non-intercooled. That's all you need. That is all you need. Now, look, I'm not saying you're going to drop 4 bills to the rear wheels. It's probably going to be like 370. But believe me when I tell you, it'll be a blast to drive. So that would be the route that I would go initially for it. In fact, if I were to do anything to Foxy, that's the route that I would go. So originally designed, put together, if you want to call it that, to be a blower car. So, and I ran power diodes, I've run T trims, S trims, on all kinds of stuff. Still my favorite setup on the Windsors. So that's what I would go. Stroker is fine, but it's still kind of tough to get to that number stroked, and stroker motors can be a bit of a pain. Just with the fact that they're just as rowdy as they are, you can get to that point, have a much more docile car in general. Won't be quite as crazy to drive, but you'll make all the power and all the torque. It's tough to beat a supercharged 5.0. So that would be the route that I would go. Keep it around 8, 9 pounds of boost and you'll be just fine. Monterez Emmy saying, just Pro charged and got the Comp Cam 270 in it now, along with a 3,800 RPM stall. Is that too big a stall for forced air? Not at all. Might not be big enough depending on what tire size you're running and, you know, stickiness of the tire. In other words, are you running a slick or ET Street R, or are you running like a drag radial at the track? Prepared surface type thing. That's going to be the difference. Hey, Oklahoma, thank you very much. Saying thank you for the info. The Hellcat throttle body was given to me, but I would hate to take it off or take off the 84 millimeter throttle body for this if it doesn't give any results. Thanks, brother. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, you're not going to see a lot of results from that. Like I said, I was trying to show you with that intake, you know, the way that it kind of bends, drops, and goes around it. You're just not going to be able to take full advantage of that throttle body. 84 millimeter is good. Now put it to like this. So let me give you this to work with, because you've got a Comp 270. The KPA in the intake manifold, in other words, the pressure drop in the intake manifold at wide open throttle. So there's different ways to look at this, but normal, just sitting around air that we're breathing right now, is at 14.7 psi, which is in kilopascals, which is what KPA stands for, is 100 kilopascals. The old way of measuring vacuum with inches of mercury, let me give you an idea. Carburetors, if you could be around 1.5 inches in inches of mercury, that was what the carburetors were rated at. There was an assumed vacuum underneath that carburetor. Well, if there's a vacuum when the carburetor is at wide open throttle, it's a built-in restriction. And you can almost think about it as 1.5 inches that was like the standard for carburetors. Well, the manifolds with a Comp Cam 270 or any of the aftermarket cams, ported manifold, 84 millimeter throttle body, you should see basically like one of my manifolds, I was showing 0.5 inch of mercury in the manifold itself. So the KPA, if we're talking about 100 KPA, it was like 98.5 at certain points, which is good. You're always going to have some level of a vacuum in your manifold. That's just kind of how it is. The only way you would be is if you had like no manifold whatsoever, you know, or runners that were that big around. It doesn't really work like that. You know, having zero, but you try to get close to zero, especially with fuel injected engines. But some vacuum will help to foster velocity through those runners. So, you know, it's a little bit of a compromise on, you know, actual flow numbers versus velocity numbers. Anyway, that's where that all comes into play. So, but yeah, no, 84 will be good. Shawnee's asking, maybe I missed it, but what is your favorite oil to run in Revlon's engine? I just run Mobil 1. But then again, I change my oil quite a bit, so because of that, Mobil 1 just works out really well for me. I also like Pennzoil Platinum. When I can get my hands on it, that would be the oil that I will run. So those are the two oils that I'll run. And in fact, she's up for a oil change on Friday. She's getting an oil change. So before she goes to drag strip. Let's see. Captain Scat's asking, any supporting mods at the moment? Let's see. Ooh, bear with me. Damn it. Guess are we talking about, which car are we talking about? Guess we're either Foxy or Revlon. Yeah, I mean, Foxy's a 351 car with AFR heads, so there's a lot going on with Foxy. But Revlon's just a bunch of stock parts, man. That's all she is. A little bit of a tickle on the tune just to accommodate a transmission tune, and that's pretty much it. toying around a little bit of timing, but again, we're talking 1 degree of timing. I'm not even, and that, by the way, the timing that I put into Revlon was really there just to manage some funky air quality that we had. So, you know, I've got fuel added to it, but that's about it. Cam Graham just did a Whipple. Cool. Not saying thanks for the info. Kidman dude saying he's in the 11s. Dude, we got NA Rams down here running 1130s and 1140s. So, I mean, if you put a Whipple on a cammed Ram, he needs to be in the 10s. He rolls up on some of these trucks we got down here and he's gonna get stung. Queasy saying, what up, B? Seen a gorgeous blue 70 Challenger the other day on the highway. Typically, I see a classic muscle car. It's usually like a Chevy or a Chevelle. Were Chevys just more popular back then? Yeah, they were. I mean, they outsold everything significantly. And it's, again, one of the reasons why the aftermarket just chased Chevrolet. I mean, aside from the fact that the Mark III, 4, whatever big block, I mean, it was the same engine, whether it was a 396/402, 427, 454, it didn't really matter. They were all, in essence, the same engine, the same heads would cross over. So, you know, they didn't use varying deck heights or anything like that. So aftermarket manufacturers picked up on the fact real quickly that they could make parts for just one engine, but that one engine was a family of engines. Same for the small blocks as well. So, you know, that's one of the main reasons for that. Yeah, you know, the Mopars were kind of funny, man. The 383 is just a low deck 440, and arguably a lot of folks will say the 383 is a better engine than the 440 for a few reasons, but you know, packaging and all of that kind of good stuff. But I mean, the 383 is just kind of the heads just are not that awesome on 383s and 440s. You can make some power with them, don't get me wrong, but from the factory, they just, I mean, they never really were. I mean, they were, but they weren't high performance, you know, by the standard of the day. Although the 440 would run really good, they were just kind of out of steam a little bit early when compared to, you know, some of the hotter GM engines. Let's see. Modern Red saying, yeah, incredible him. He just put a Whipple on his Ram. Whipples are fun, man. Shawnee's saying, how low of a DA before you might throw a splash of race gas in your tank? I know you are trying to run under 1010 at least. I'm not running any race gas in my car this year. I was running a splash of 100 last year, but I was also running incredibly soft, and that's to put it mildly, incredibly soft knock sensor voltage, and I was running significantly leaner last year than this year. So the car seemed to like the extra fuel. Again, the timing is just there in a kind of a weird spot just to kind of cover a bit of a lull on a 4-5 shift. But right now, the data is showing not needing any octane booster. We'll see what the final results are coming into not this weekend, but next weekend. The DA is supposed to be pretty low, so that'll give us an opportunity to take a look at hopefully a low DA pass. But honestly, I'm at stock boost with added fuel, so I don't really need a whole lot of octane booster at this stage of the game. But before I probably did, just because I was running a little bit leaner than I am now. Let's see, Rhino saying, thanks for the advice. Can't wait to see the car run at Houston Raceway. I'm looking forward to it, man. I can't wait to. Every chance I get, man. Y'all know that. I'm the easiest guy to find. Floyd saying, I have a performance development diff brace on the way. Do you think that will void the warranty? Depends. I don't know if Bayway down here will have a fit about that, but it's best to go ahead and pull it off before you bring it in for any warranty work, should the need arise. Is the stock drive shaft going to hold, or is there something that needs immediate attention? So here's the thing. Get it on a drag pack, first and foremost. Your stock drive shaft will be fine. I'm not really worried so much about your drive shaft, and we can chat about this on Friday. But, you know, we got guys running 1040s, 1030s with stock drive shafts. The main thing is to stay away from tire hop. That shock, the tire hop, that, you know, that impact wrench effect is what really wads up these drive shafts. I am running a red eye drive shaft with my car, but thank you very much, multiple Mopars. But I am I have fairly decent faith in the rumors that the 17 and up drive shafts are just a little bit more robust than the 15s and 16s. So, but anyway, we've got cars that are in there just absolutely hammering some really strong ETs, but they're also on drag pack. They're not wheel hopping or anything like that. So I would say you're probably good there, all things considered. 6-2 Power saying, yo. Shawnee, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying a little nugget for the adapter to pull the passenger seat. Man, I love it. Thanks, man. And 6-2 Power with the contribution. I appreciate that, brother. Yeah, no kidding. So Sean and I were talking the other day, and, you know, the question came up as far as, you know, if the car ran a 10.0 anything, that seat's coming out. Until the car runs a 10.0 anything, though, that passenger seat is staying in that car. I want to cover the number that I ran last year. And again, if I can cover that better than half a tenth, which doesn't sound like a lot of time, but it's an eternity on a drag strip. If I can cover that, get it into the 10.0s, that seat is coming out. So we'll see how that goes, though. We keep getting DAs like we're having today, though, man. I don't know, get there. But again, you know, and as far as that goes, I mean, the car really is chasing the DA right now because, you know, you're looking at a 10 in 0 DA, 0 flat, 0 DA. The car went 10.0s. I'm sorry, 10.2s. If I would have had negative 1,000 feet, it would have been closer to that, you know, mid to low 10 teens. I don't know if I'd have been 10.09, which is kind of where my brain immediately jumped to. Don't know if it would have been that quick, but there was enough in it to give me an idea that it would get there, because before the car would not go 20s at 0 DA. It would run, let me think about this for a minute. The car was running low 30s, like maybe let's say a mid 30, like a 35 at 0. So that's kind of where we're at now. I think the car, with the new tune and some of the changes that I made, just the minor stuff that I've done, just kind of poking and prodding and basically just fine tuning the trans tune, I think we're able to get about 1/10 out of it, which tells me that the best I can really hope for, if I'm being honest over here, guys, the best I can really hope for is a 10.06 in like DA. But hey, that'd be pretty cool to say, hey, look, I got a stock Hellcat or stock boost Hellcat on 93 octane gasoline to go a 10.0 something. I mean, I've already kind of crossed that bridge with a 10 teen. I'd like to get a 10.0 out of her, kind of poke the bear a little bit on that 9-second pass on 93 octane. So we'll see, but that's a Mother Nature thing, because right now there's really nothing else I can do to the car. I cannot put a tune on the car that's going to pick up 3/10. It just, that's not even in the cards. That's not even remotely something that's going to happen. So you know, just that's life. That's kind of where we're at with that. So Mother Nature is going to have to give her a little bit of a shove. Let's see. Shawnee's saying, I'm thinking about changing out my plug. Should I just go with the stock ones gapped at 0.25? Yeah, the NGK 07. I can't remember the part number. But yeah, it's the 7 heat range will be good. And just gap them at 25. Kidman saying GM just did a massive recall. I didn't hear about that. Bummer. 62 Power saying, I'm thinking about going duster off stage 3. Does decoupling pulley matter much versus fixed pulley? I'm leaning hard towards the Grip Tech 285 or 280. So here's the thing. Does decoupling matter? Not if you've got a pinned crank. Obviously, you're going to have to do a pinned crank if you're thinking about going with a pulley that small. So either way, it's not going to matter, because by even the suggestion of a 280 or a 285 pulley, you're going to be pinning your crank. So you're good to go either way. Listen, I mean, cars have been running non-decoupler, regular style pulleys for a long time. I don't see that being much of an issue. The decoupler pulleys are good. Only downside is that some of the aftermarket ones were having a problem staying together. So might have been a bad production run. I get that, you know, being on the manufacturing side of life, I understand that completely. But the good thing about running a non-coupler, basically just a regular pulley, is that you can swap those things out real quickly. And it, you know, if you want to, you know, chill it out a little bit, or, you know, whatever the case might be, you want to go from a 280 to a, or like a 285 to a 295, or go down to a 275, provided you've got the fuel quality to manage that, then you'll be in good shape. But I will stress that if you're going to be running those pulleys, 285, you are now into the zone of you need a better octane in your tank, just the way that it is, man. So know that going into it. I know everybody will tell you can run 93 with this. Okay, yeah, maybe if you're in a high altitude, and sure, I'll sign off on that all day. But if you're going to be in low altitude areas, like physically low altitude areas, especially, you know, kind of like what we're talking about in the first part of the show, with these lower DAs, you're going to have to know that your fuel requirements are going to be a lot more significant than what they were. So, word to the wise, make sure that you've got the fuel system to manage that 285, whether it's injectors, whether it's the right octane boost, or fuel mix. Don't want you to get ahead of yourself. And listen, I will only say this if the person that is you know, putting the tune on the car is willing to cut the check for the cost to replace that motor. You know, when it comes to going like 285, 275 on the street on 93 octane, no guarantees on those on 93 octane, because you're now up against and you are at the mercy of fuel quality. There's no accounting for that. So, you know, just know that, you know, you get into the 285 zone, you are now into, you're going to probably want to run Boostane or Torco all the time. And to answer the question, what is the most pulley ratio you can run without having to switch to Torco or Boostane? Either a 9% lower or maybe a 295 upper would be the cap for me, anyway. Cody's asking, been trying to find a good single cab 4.6 F-150 and make it fast as a stock Lightning. That would be tough to do, but it would be a lot of fun to try. Sloan saying, I dynoed my stock 19 Hellcat. It was making 14 PSI of boost. The dyno shop swears I did something to my car. Have you seen stock Hellcats with 14 PSI? I would verify that. I would look at your KPA. It is not making 14 PSI. More than likely, if you did dyno it and it was making that a significant amount of boost, significantly more than say 11, then you may have dynoed it in very low ambient conditions at low altitude. But no, there's not going to be anything. If it's a stock car, it's just not going to make those kind of boost numbers. I mean, not unless there's some kind of significant restriction somewhere, where I doubt that very seriously. But yeah, take a look at KPA. Your KPA is going to be somewhere around 185 at the most. You could see as high as 190. No, it wouldn't even go as high as 190. You'd probably see 183, 185 would be your KPA on a dyno, on a data log, whether on the street or on the dyno. I've just seen a ton of them, and I've got one sitting back here that is probably the most data logged Hellcat on the planet. Let's see, Kidman saying, or if they were sampling it off the car itself, then the thing that they were using to sample was not reading correctly. Kidman's asking, steel drive shaft versus aluminum. Would aluminum be a noticeable difference at all? So this is the great debate. Steel versus aluminum. Is there a marketable difference? No. There's not. The only time that there is a real difference between the two is if there is a deficiency somewhere along the lines with the stock drive shaft. But you've got to remember that you've got an inertial load at play here with an aluminum drive shaft versus steel. Steel drive shafts are typically only that big around. Okay, they're maybe at the most 3 inches, and rarely are they much more than that. Aluminum drive shafts will be 4 inches in diameter. You think, okay, well, what's the difference? It's just like anything. I mean, when you're taking something with a larger diameter and trying to turn it, think of it like this. Go get a 25-pound plate. Okay, it's about this big around, and you can turn it pretty good. Then get you something that's just bigger, that's 25 pounds, and turn it. That inertial load is greater. So. Or something that's 15 pounds and but significantly larger, and you can kind of see where I'm going with this. There's not that big of a difference. The main thing is that the aluminum drive shaft will simply weigh less, and it's part of a weight loss regimen. My car had an aluminum drive shaft on it, and between that aluminum drive shaft and the most heaviest drive shaft you can get, which is the Red Eye or the Demon drive shaft, it's the same drive shaft, the car wasn't any quicker or slower with the heaviest drive shaft that you can possibly get versus the lightest drive shaft that's not carbon fiber that you can get for the car. I've done that testing, and I have proven that it didn't make any difference. So there's that. Typically the argument for an aluminum drive shaft is just going to centralize around superior U-joints or better balanced or whatever. I've never noticed that, though, from a aftermarket aluminum drive shaft versus a stock steel drive shaft. I haven't seen any real plus or minus, honestly. And believe me when I tell you, I give it every opportunity to be better. Kidmo's asking, if you go with colder plugs one step down, I'd go with colder thermostat too. Just my O2. Depends on depends on where you're starting out with your thermostat. But it's always a good idea to run a cooler thermostat. One thing that Revlon may get, got a buddy of mine who's having some luck with a it's not Schnell, and for whatever reason it's stuck in my head now. Anyway, she might be getting a different thermostat, but we'll see. Light Grid saying, B, how are you today? Doing well, man. I hope you're doing well too. Jamie's asking, would I lose any reliability or experience any drivability issues with a sniper cam and a 392 A8 scat pack? No. No issues with reliability or drivability. That cam was designed. So the history with the sniper is kind of funny. That cam was, when I put that cam together, it was specifically for me. That's my personal signature grind, is my sniper. Doesn't have much of a chop to speak of at all. Has solid gains across the board and is basically there to just make more power, to make the car act like it is just faster, just bigger, like just to act like it's got a bigger engine in it, really, in terms of how it's going to make power from like 3,000 RPM to 6,400 RPM. That's really what that cam is there for. It's the most compromise without having to get too, without having to have the bottom half of the dyno sheet be just a dog. Like with some of the early comp cams for the Hemis, they just did not have the profiles right. They were trying to use an old school mentality with these engines that just didn't work out. So to give you an idea, Hemis with the aftermarket camshafts do not like wide lobe separation angles. They feel like turds with real wide lobe separation angles with lots of duration. So, I mean, they've already got that with the stock cam, and the stock cam gets by because it's got very short duration numbers. So, you know, they're real punchy, real crisp, but they still have that wide LSA. Sniper is a little bit different, and if you're looking at some other cams, my Warlock grind over at Dr. Differential, that's another real good grind. That was cam number 2 that was going to be my second choice. It's a little bit more aggressive than the Sniper, but again, it was a little bit more aggressive to make a little bit more power on the right-hand side of the dyno chart. Again, sacrificing a little bit of tip in down low. But the Sniper, picks like this, Rob Panton's got in essence, the Sniper cam in his car. That cam is clean, guys. I mean, that car is fast, very streetable. It's streetable like stock. And you've seen how it pulls on, you know, the stock Amber's car, Racer X's wife's car. You've seen how that car pulls and just basically walks out of that car's life. In the 8th mile, you know, that's the difference between just a mild little cam and a 392, but a cam that was put together specifically just to make power. I didn't care about a lope or a chop or anything like that. When I did the math, that's what the car was going to want. And what the intake is basically, without boring you to tears with the backstory with that cam was designed around the stock intake manifold. And it was just trying to make the best use of that stock intake manifold and have a setup that the car wasn't going to be a pain in the ass to tune. You know, for guys that just want to go to the drag strip, run the car, daily drive, street to strip type of a thing, got to drive to work on Monday, but you want to play Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's basically what it's there for. But again, you got to do the full kit, not just the cam, for that thing to work, because my load profile, very aggressive. So you need the springs, you need the push rods, you need the stand key tie bars and collars, really, to make it right. But Quick Brick will tell you he loves that cam. A lot of guys love that cam, and there's some other similar grinds to it, but you know, there's a lot of guys that are finding out that having a real aggressive cam in one of these Hemis is a pain in the ass, especially when they're not tuned properly. Shawnee's hanging out with the Sloan. Let's say Ship Nation say, "What's up, B? What's up, Ship?" Say I have a 16 Scaddy with shaker package with an M6. Fun car, by the way. Do we have different rear ratios on them? Yes, you do. Heard you have 390s. Is that a fact? So yeah, you've got a 3.92 rear gear ratio in your car. It's the most aggressive gear ratio that an LX platform will have. The Hellcat with the 6-speed manual has a 3.7. The autos have a 3.09, and the stock Hellcat is a 2.62. So that is correct. The Sloan saying DynoJet 660. Nice. Cody's talking about his Corolla. Come on, man. Let's see. Saying, should probably get my Corolla too now that I'm running 91 Octane. As far as fuel management, what else should I upgrade as far as injector, spark plugs, and fuel pump? Probably nothing, so far as I can tell. Goal is to eventually run E85 or even 100 Octane, since I can't go 110 due to compression. If you can't do 110, how are you going to do E85? Plus, you're going to need pumps and everything else. So, no, you're in good shape, man. Let her rip how she is. Just tune her with what you got. 62 Empire saying FIC 1050 injectors and twin drop-in pumps are going to be my replacement fuel support with a 93 Street MS 109 GT260 at the track. Thanks for your help. Good combination. You guys know, man. Look, I don't have any sponsors, but Injected Engineering makes a great bit of kit for the dual pump. It's a plug-and-play setup, and it will work really well. So take a look at that, and that's what I would recommend going for. Anybody that's looking to upgrade their pumps, it'll plug right into the stock setup and you're in good shape. Let's see. 2004 LSX saying, hello, sir. Hello, man. Saying, I have an 18 Challenger Scat, bone stock, don't race the car. What octane fuel should I be using? 93 is what you need to be using. Most stations have non-ethanol 90 octane 2. Nope. Run the 93. That's the fuel that you need to be using. Non-ethanol 90 is good for boats. It's good for power equipment. It's great in my work truck. So sidebar, my boss and I are having a fuel economy battle right now. So anyway, he's got me at 20. I think he just covered 23.8 or something like that. So I'm going to try to get it to 24, and I'm going to cheat with some 90 non-ethanol. So anyway. But yeah, no, use 93, you'll be in good shape. Don't use the 90. Nick's asking, sorry if it's been asked, but what software do you use in combination with a J-Box to make your tunes? Seems like there's a million and none work with DCX. Well, I am using all HP tuner software. If you're asking me what I'm using to tune the Hellcat, that's just, I mean, that's what I use on that. Tuning software on Foxy is Calcon, Cal Edit, All Tweaker, STKR stuff. Let's see. But that's it. I don't have to use any J-boxes or, you know, anything like that. I mean, well, unless you're calling the easy cable, whatever it is that some of the 18s and up have to use. You do have to do that, but mine, I don't have to mess with that. But yeah, it's all HP tuners for the late model stuff. And I like HP tuners. It's just a little bit more intuitive. But then again, it's intuitive because it's the one I've been using. So, you know, chicken egg type thing. Oh, Shawnee is just letting, yeah, at Ship Nation, yeah, 390 gear for the newer stuff. For the 6-speed for the newer cars. Kid missing. I miss Sunoco Ultra 94. Also remember they used to sell 102 or 104 in 5-gallon cans. My Ram loves the higher octane gas. You can get 104 and 100 in the 5-gallon cans still. Shawnee's saying 660 is stock boost. Dyno Jet Hellcat numbers 14 pounds of boost on a Dyno Jet will be in the 750 range. That is correct. Jamie's saying, thanks, P. Got the arm flex. I like it. Cody's saying, thanks for the advice, P. Always coming in clutch. Oh, man, that's what I'm here for, brother. Freddie's saying, been looking to upgrade my stock 15 Chelly SRT 392 6-speed for a new super stock Z01 or GT500. Have you raced a new GT500 yet? Unfortunately, my man, I haven't had one even come close because I haven't raced one. The only GT500 that I've even had a chance to look at, play with, or do anything was just sitting on the dyno. That was a pulley, GT500 pulley with headers. And that was just me hanging out, kind of poking and prodding through the tune with Alex. But no, stock versus Revlon on the drag strip, it's not going to be close. Revlon will, it's basically a lightly modified, but yet still modified car versus a stock car. GT500 won't stand a chance. ZL1, man, the car that I love to hate, dude, or I hate to love, however you want to look at it, love the ZL1. The ZL1 needs more supercharger. I'll just come out and say it. That car, it's criminal that car doesn't run 10s from the factory. And one night, this is last year, there was a flurry of those things that had hit the track one night. Me and that buddy of mine, Chris, were hanging out at the track. We were grabbing a bite to eat, kind of letting the cars cool off. And these guys were running their cars, so we're just hanging out watching the cars run. And every ZL1 that was stock on a drag pack was struggling to run an 11.2. These are 10-speed auto cars, not manual cars. These are legit ZL1s. Don't get me wrong, 11.2 is fast, but I mean, it's not modern car fast. I mean, Hellcats accidentally run 10s in good weather. And by the way, this night the weather was pretty decent. So the ZL1 suffers from journalism. That's a car that was made for journos, and again, it needs more power. 650 isn't going to cut it, but even more to the point, it's definitely not going to cut it when you put it on a drag pack, and the freaking thing runs at 11.2 is the fastest one out of the group. And to put it in perspective, that's a car running 11.2s when Chris's car at full weight was running 10.8, 10.7. Non-tuned, I don't even think it was tuned at that point. So anyway, 10.8 for sure. Significant difference no matter how you want to slice it. So there's that. Now you're talking about the new super stock. You know, throwing that in there as an option. You do know what show you're watching, right?
Mopar.
No, seriously though, the super stock's a great car, but I don't even know that I would go super stock. If you're looking for, you know, because you're bringing up GT500 and ZL1, I mean, those are just regular production, and super stock's supposed to be, you know, a little bit more of a, you know, I don't know, prestige car or something like that. If it's me and you're looking to drop that kind of coin on a car, man, I would go red eye at that point. Realistically, that's the direction I would go. Because look, I'm still not a huge fan of the GT500, at least not with that transmission. The ZL1, it sure does try hard, doesn't it? But it just freaking comes up short, in my opinion. Great car though. That's the thing. The ZL1 with a 6-speed manual makes total sense to me at that power to weight ratio. But that car with an automatic just bums me out because, well, it freaking doesn't make enough power to be a fast, drag car, you know, if you want to look at it like that. Some folks will say, well, it's not a drag car, it's ZL1. Look, there's plenty of Camaros that go to the drag strip. Fool, don't tell me something's not a drag car when I see 100 of them over the course of a month at the drag strip. So same goes for the Mustang. I don't care, GT500, GT350, GT4, 5, 6, 700, whatever you want to have, it's still a Mustang, and it's going to be at the drag strip. But we just haven't seen a GT500 show up at the drag strip. Not one. Not one. Not even in the pits. So when Corvettes, C8 Corvettes, mind you, are there every weekend, just making passes, guys are having fun, having a soda, eating a popcorn, you know, having a dog, hanging out, driving their cars, enjoying them, learning their platforms and getting better. They're out there doing it. Why aren't the GT500 guys doing it? Just the TF, mate. So anyway, there's that. But you know, if it's me, I'd go red eye. If you like the Mopar, go with the red eye, or a Hellcat for that matter. I mean, it depends on what you want to do. If you're going to mod the car, go with the Hellcat. If you're not going to mod the car, go with the red eye. Either way, you will be very happy. Again, I lean towards the red eye mainly because you can option it with a 309 gear. It's already got all the bells and whistles. It scoots, and you know, if you've got, you know, cosmetics or wheels or anything like that that you want to carry over from your other car, they just bolt right up. ZL1, man, if you want a complete departure, that is not the car that's going to be a complete departure from what you're used to, primarily because, yeah, there's a significant difference in power, but there's not a significant difference aside from just better suspension and suspension geometry from where you're at now. It's just more of what you've already got if you get a manual. Can't get a manual red eye, so just remember that. Of course, you certainly can't get a manual GT500. So all of that just kind of comes into play. Stuff you got to consider coming into it. 2004 LSX saying, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Zephyr R&D said, whatever, Professor Mason got the fist bump. I like it, saying, I put a Hellcat OEM hood on our 6.1. Any concerns with the air filters and ABS module being exposed to rain, etc. when parked? I would put the guard, I think, who is it? JB, who is it? Anyway, one of the cold air manufacturers has got a little like guard that goes over the heat extractor if you've got an exposed filter, or you can put a pre-filter over it. That'll help a little bit, but I would go ahead and just put that guard over the driver's side grill right there and call it good. Let's see. Shift Nation saying, thanks for the answers, Mr. R&D. No kidding, right? You know, I have tested so many different parts, and I have put so many different manufacturers to the test when it comes to, you know, what cold air works, you know, what does this work, what is that, you know, how does that work? I've done so much of that at this point that, yeah, I've kind of amassed a bit of a catalog of interesting results from parts that either work or kind of don't work. Kim is saying, so is the ZR8 the fastest USA car made quarter mile? Don't know. Don't know. Couldn't tell you. Shift Day saying, thank you, brother, at Sean E. Thank you. Let's see, from Sean E to you, I'm sure. Paul saying, Mr. B, at what ET time or horsepower should you change to 309s? Stock up to about, I would say stock up to about 840 horsepower, which is where the demon is. Really, to be honest with you, any faster than that, you start to have a little bit of a problem launching the car. You've got a lot of gear ratio that you're playing with. You got to remember, you got a 4.17 first gear. And so when you start to run the math backwards on that, that is a lot of gear reduction. You know, it's over 12 to 1. I think it's like 14 to 1. 309 and a 4.17. It's like a 14 or close to a 14 to 1. That's something that it makes it difficult to hook up. You can get it to hook up, but you just have to remember that you've got to have the right power to weight ratio. If you've got a lightweight car, like if you've got a stripped down Hellcat, I would say, yeah, somewhere around that 750 to 800 horsepower to the rear wheels range, you're going to want to go back to the 262, to the stock gear. Now, all of that being said, yeah, you're going to pick up with a 309 gear. That's kind of been proven, but it doesn't necessarily add to the day in and day out fun factor of the car. I mean, yeah, it'll be more lively with a tune or with a pedal commander, but in terms of just playing around with the car, not a big difference until you start getting into the later gears. In fourth gear and then in fifth gear, that's really where you can start to tell the difference between the 262 and the 309. But anywhere else, not so much. But hopefully that answers the question. That's just been in my experience. Kim is saying, sorry, I might have had the wrong name, ZR8. The one made in the separate factory from the other vets, carbon fiber. Oh, you're talking about the ZL1. I guess is the one that you're talking about, the older ZL1. Probably the fastest American car. I mean, they scream, but I mean, they're on par with, well, I don't know. See, because the Viper would have to play into that, but that car is no longer in production. Neither is the ZL1. So the C8, there's no Z06 or ZR1 versions of those cars yet. So, you know, of the older cars, though, yeah, that vet's fast. real fast, as a matter of fact. And that's a proper blower on that engine too, by the way. But no, it's a solid performing car. The Viper's good, albeit a lot long in the tooth if we're talking about kind of the latest era of the ultra fast cars. But I mean, you can't take away the demon and all of that. And plus the Hellcat still, it may not hold any records anymore, but I mean, the Hellcat still is the yardstick by which every one of these other cars are judged. So, and that's just because they're so prolific in the, at drag strips. Jonathan's asking, can the Ram 1500s swap the 392 intake without issue? Yeah, you can swap the truck 392 intake without any real issue. However, you're going to need an extension to run your SRV actuator. But aside from that, and some intake stuff, you need to have the right intake to make it work, because it's not going to work with the intake that you have, I don't think, but not without some significant modification. But yeah, that intake will work, and in fact, it works really well on the 5.7, especially NA. Let's see. Ship Nation saying, on track days, if I remove my passenger seat or driver's seat on my 16 Scat, will I have any issues? Airbags, check engine? No, you won't have any issues. In fact, I know guys that roll with no passenger seat. There might be an airbag light, but I've never noticed one. So yeah, no, I don't think you're going to have any issues with that. Kevin's asking, hey Mason, can you explain what the stall speed in a torque converter mean, and what is the car doing or performing like from idle RPM to the desired stall speed? Absolutely, I can. So the best way for me to explain what a stall speed is first of all, we're going to need to make some cookies. So what you're going to want to do is get a bowl, fill it full of basically cookie dough. That's going to be the fluid media, because you have to remember that a torque converter is just a fluid coupling, okay? So fill this big metal bowl up full of cookie dough, get your drill and put a mixer on the end of it. Stick that into the cookie dough and hit it. Slowly though. That drill is going to be your engine. And if you notice, while you're holding the bowl is going to try to turn, but you can keep the bowl from turning with your hand, right? But the more you hit that thing, the mixer, the more it may try to turn that bowl. That's basically what a torque converter is doing. Now, granted, there's some vanes and some other things that are going on in there that are basically directing the flow of the transmission fluid, and it's acting basically as a pump at the same time. But the idea is still basically there. You're taking a fluid, and that is what you are using as the coupler, so to speak, between a spinning drive portion and the affected portion of that torque converter. So what's happening is the stall speed is just the maximum amount of speed that the input can turn before that case, the converter itself, is going to start to try to turn. And it'll do either one of two things. It's going to send the power downstream into the powertrain and the transmission. It'll just make the tires start to spin, power braking it, or it'll just stall the engine. No matter how much throttle you give it, the engine can only turn so fast. That's when the engine is just a low-powered engine in that situation, so to speak. So you can get into the lock-up torque converters, which is basically where there's a clutch there that acts like a clutch and just locks everything together. But that's really not what you're asking. You're really asking what and how does that torque converter work? Well, think of it like this. The higher the torque converter stall speed is just the higher that drill with the mixer can turn that fluid. We're talking about the cookie dough. The harder it can spin that cookie dough before it will actually start to make that case turn. Same thing here. It's the harder the engine can turn before the fluid itself will just try to force that case to turn. And that's again because of the vanes and some other things that are going on inside of that torque converter that fluid is pressing against to try to get that whole case to turn. So it's not just an empty bowl, so to speak, with stuff swirling around in there. Again, there's veins and some other stuff. And if you ever look at one, they're actually pretty cool to look at. They look kind of like the inside of a seashell in a way, with all the little veins and stuff going on in there. But all of those areas are areas where that fluid is going and is trying to just forcibly turn the case itself on the inside. And again, the higher your stall speed, the faster your engine can turn before it tries to force it, which means you're going to be higher into your power band, which can make the car feel sloppy under partial throttle conditions. But you watt the throttle and it just launches, and that's how the torque converters work. But I don't know. I've always been able to kind of wrap my head around it a little bit better if it comes to making cookies. So there's that. Plus, I like cookies because they're tasty. Paul's saying, I run 1042 at 135 and 1700 DA with 262s. Car is 4,500 pounds with me in it. What is your opinion on putting in the 309? Car is the same as yours with a 100 octane tune. Well, to answer the question, you would pick up with that setup, you would pick up about a tenth and change. So you would be consistently in the 1030, 1020 range at that DA, roughly, with 309 gears, running that 100 octane tune, give or take. It'll pull stronger on the big end, so instead of 135, you might see 136, 137 out the back door with that. You're in a little bit different situation because you are going to be basically stretching the car out. You're going to be still shifting into sixth, going through the traps, but it's going to shift. I'm going to say it's going to shift about 100 feet before you go through the traps at your power level, if that's what you're running right now. So just to kind of give you an idea, I mean, down here, that would be, that would be a pretty low 10-second car, be right in like the high 9s, low 10s at that DA. Which, we were talking about, getting your car ready for, the lower DA scenarios. So Paul has, let me give you guys an example real quick. Paul has a car that was tuned on 100 octane. 100 octane has a broader knock window than a 93 octane would have. So in his case, what he's talking about, when he's talking about he has a 100 octane tune, what that means is that he is running a fuel that has a knock resistance that is higher than 93, which means he can run more timing. And in typical fashion, like a 100 octane tune, you may be able to throw a couple of degrees more timing at it than you would be able to run with a 93 octane tune. And where that helps you primarily with these cars is at the shift point, where when the RPM drops, you're able to have this nice fat cushion of timing there to just keep matting that power to the ground. With my car, I can't really get away with a lot, again, because I'm running 93 octane. But it's a good point to make. When you're running 100 octane, you are running a known value of fuel. And this goes back into what we were talking about earlier with make sure that you're on top of your fuel quality. When you're running an aftermarket fuel, in other words, not a commercial fuel like what you would buy at your Costco or Exxon or Shell or whatever, when you're running, which by the way, you're going to have your summer blend, your winter blend, and everything else. The difference here is that Paul is running a fuel, just 22.5 degrees of timing over 3,500. To give you an idea, that is significantly more than stock. But Paul's running a fuel that is consistent the year round. So this is one of those scenarios where, you might want to consider if you've got a boosted car, there's no sin in cheating that gas. It's not cheating. I mean, you're doing the smart thing. You're bringing your octane level up slightly to manage those lower DA conditions where your car will make more boost because you have more air available when the DA drops. So, in this case, Paul's able to run a significant amount more timing because he has a known quality fuel that he's running through his car. If you were to try to do that with 93 octane, that would be a bad idea. So I would certainly suggest not doing that, or asking your tuner to go real hot with a tune when you're coming into the winter months. It's one of those situations where, and to that point, for you guys that were considering, we keep talking about this rip-a-tuned or the Hell Danger or whatever it's called, pulleys. One of the things that these guys will say is, well, you can run it with no tune. Let me remind you guys that at the last year's track rental, Revlon actually pegged the airflow chart. That's right. She hit 1.51 grams per second airflow, which is over the 1.50 that the table will allow to command for timing. So again, it kind of, you start to look at that and you go, well, damn, what happens if I peg that meter with even more boost? You get it like 1.6 or whatever. The car will still be able to measure the airflow. I mean, it's measuring the airflow. It just doesn't know what to do with timing after that. So you're going to be basically running in a locked timing scenario, which is more timing than maybe your fuel quality will allow for. So as you can see, the complication just keeps growing as that DA starts to drop. You're making more power, now you're wanting to make more power with pulleys. You've got all of that stuff going on, and the reality is, well, it can end in not necessarily certain disaster, but it can get you stung if you're not really on top of your stuff. But thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Oh, Jonathan's asking, what is your opinion on the Edelbrock supercharger for the Ram not trying to shoot for the moon? Well, you might be surprised, Jonathan. I mean, that's a hell of a good supercharger. It's using the Maggie 2650 compressor. Probably the best kit you can buy on the market, whether you've got a 5.7 Ram or you've got a 5.7 car. I love the E-Force kits. For some reason, somebody somewhere along the way, they were much maligned or something at one point, primarily because the tune that came with them was soft, and it still arguably is. So if you get one, you're going to need to get it retuned. I'm just telling you that right now. But all of that being said, and yeah, love Pepsi. But yeah, that being said, look, one of the best kits you can buy, cleanest install. Not only does it look the part, it puts the power right where you want it the most, right there instantly, right underfoot. It's like you're driving a car, or a truck rather, that's gained 100 cubic inches in displacement when you run that type of a supercharger, with no ill effects aside from one thing: transmission. So here's the deal: the trans will be able to manage it, but the big issue that I'm looking at is, will it be able to handle it if you're taking the thing to the drag strip or really beating on it or doing things like that? It'll manage it for a while. Just know that if you're running big tires, things like that, that's going to be putting a lot of strain on that transmission. So know that coming into it, and gear it appropriately if that scenario basically falls in line with what you're going to be doing with that truck. Jonathan's saying advertising 140-ish over stock. That's 100% doable with that kit. Paul's saying, I think I will try the 309s and put on the Demon Springs, and I think it will not spin and get from 154 to 148. So I'm currently running 150s with mine like clockwork. It's rare. In fact, it's rare for my car to not cover. It puts like this: it won't run any slower than a 152 the way that she sits right now. So yeah, you'll be able to drag that down quite a bit with the 309s and the Demon Springs. Actually, bro, you should be a little bit quicker than a 148. I think it's going to surprise you a little bit, bro, with that timing that you've got and that fuel that you're running. I think you're going to be covering some 46s, 47s, and I think you're going to like it. The only downside that I have to the Carlisle, the Demon Springs, if there is something to say for them, they're just really soft. They're real cushy. They're great for the drag strip, and they're great if you're taking long trips. But just know that coming into it, they can be a little bit, you know, they can be a little bit floaty. They just kind of groove along when you're rolling in them. Rolling with them. If you've never driven a Demon, one of the funnest, this is one of the funnier things about being stuck with that Demon for a month. I would just drive the thing around in drag mode everywhere because the suspension is softer, and so just going over bumps, it'll kind of rock you to sleep almost, as soft as those things are. So, fun car though, fun setup. Kamal saying, you guys are too pro for me to understand. Nah, you'll catch up. We're just using a bunch of big words, that's all. Fred H is saying, thanks for all your responses. As always, hope to see you at the track one night and see what an A8 Hellcat is all about. Is a 6-speed Hellcat worthy of busting into the 10s with DA tires, etc.? Bro, oh God. Okay, so it's tough to get one into the 10s. You've really got to row that thing. You can get them into the 10s. I just don't think you're going to have drag pack. I might even go so far as to suggest going with a set of 392 gears. It's not a big departure from the 370s, but anything will help that 226 first gear that you've got. They're just tough to get out of the hole, man. I don't understand why that car has to have a 226. And I know that Tremec with a more aggressive gear set can manage more power. They're just not rated very high once they start, because the Tremec ratings are all based around that first gear ratio. And so there's that. But anyway, yeah, no doubt you can get them into the 10s. I'm just saying that you're going to have to seriously row that thing. We're talking clutch line mod, get the restrictor out of there. You're going to need drag pack, a tune, at least. And I mean, just freaking drive it like you stole it. You'll get close. Paul's saying the air here in Phoenix is so bad, but this time of year it gets to 1500 DA. You know, the funny thing is 1500 DA in Phoenix would be some awesome air. Freddie H is saying, how's the old Camaro and GMC project? Thanks again, Professor, for your time and expertise. Thank you, man. Appreciate you hanging out. So, waiting on an opening over at Dr. Differential to get Sierra over there. Got the intake manifold waiting for it to intake and throttle body. It's just a Performer with a Edelbrock 600 carb for now. She sounds great. She fires right up. I love the way that it sounds, but it does need that transmission. Waiting to get the transmission in the truck. Get the 4-barrel on it, and probably going to have to go with an electric fuel pump, because modern fuel is just not going to fly with that vehicle at all, with vapor lock and all that. It's just having a bad time with that. So, but cruising down the road, the thing's just fine. It's got a new radiator, new brake lines. I mean, she's clean, looks good. The Camaro's doing fine. Just put new tires in the back of the Camaro. Still need to tear the dash out of it. But Camaro's great, fires right up. In fact, I drove it around the other day and doing good. I need to adjust the left rear brake. It's got the 4th gen, rear brake hang. So I need to do something about that. But it'll chill itself out after a minute or two of driving it. So, but doing good. Did a nice little smoky burnout with it the other day. So she's running good. But yeah, I can't wait to get to work again on the truck though, or get the work done on the truck, because I miss that truck. That truck puts me in such a chill mood, puts me in such a good mood. So this year, get the transmission in the truck. And then next year, you're going to have to do a little soul searching. Is it going to get an LS swap, or is it going to get a rebuilt 400? Maybe a 700 R4. We'll see. It might just be a whole lot easier to do an LS swap, 4L60 with a 5.3, put one of my cams in it, and just let her rip. That might end up being the smart play, but man, I kind of like having the old school stuff in the truck. I don't know. We're just going to have to see. But it's going to be, I'll put it like this, it'll be more based on cost than anything else. And unfortunately, I think it might be cheaper to go with the modern running gear, just put a cam in it, a little 410 horse 5.3 would be pretty sick with that truck with the 430 gears. So we'll see. Kidman's asking, nitrous over supercharger on a Ram 5.7, the juice is cheaper and less strain? Not if you do it right. And as far as less strain goes, no, it's going to hit harder than a supercharger will. You're going to want a supercharger if you want long-term, and it depends on the supercharger, I guess, but long-term durability is going to hover with a centrifugal supercharger, something that makes power on the big end, basically forces all of the torque over to the right on the dyno chart. That's what's going to save a drivetrain. Now, that being said, nitrous. Nitrous is the least kind. Ooh, I thought that thing was going to blow up. Nitrous is the least kind to drivetrain components. I mean, that's just the way that it is. Unless you're running a solid progressive controller, and you're going to need to do everything to modern standards with nitrous. I mean, granted, all you need is a bottle, a solenoid, and some line, right? Well, it's a little bit different with these modern cars because these modern cars make so much more power stock than their predecessors did. A Ram with a 5.7 makes basically 400 horsepower. No engines made 400 horsepower that weren't high performance big blocks back in the day, or back in any day leading up to this modern era. So, just know that coming into it. You're dealing with something that's a lot more sophisticated in terms of power output. You need to be a lot more sophisticated in terms of your power adder course of action in this case. So, nitrous outlet kit with a progressive controller running everything off of injector duty cycle, window switches, the whole bit of kit is what you're going to need to make it function properly, and that ain't cheap. Not to mention, you got to keep refilling your bottle, and you got to replace solenoids once a year. So there's a lot that comes with nitrous ownership that a lot of guys just don't take into account, and it will bite you in your ass if you try to shirk your responsibility with that kit long term. So just know that coming into it. Let's see. Paul's asking, do you think we will ever be able to get the computer setup of the SS? If you're talking about just a read file, that's the read file on the I guess if you're asking about the super stock, it's the same as a red eye. I mean, there's no difference there. So there's really no difference that I could possibly imagine one based on just power output from the super stock to the red eye. You're just not going to see any difference. And I know that because there's no difference between the red eye and the Demon in 93 octane mode. You look at the tune, look at the tune on a Demon, look at the tune on a red eye, it's the same tune. So let's see. Shift is asking, do you recommend to upgrade diff brace bracket for a 392, and does it help wheel hop? Stock one looks weak, by the way. I would say for sure, go with go with some type of a diff brace. Just make sure that you install it properly. If you're going to use one of the diff braces that ties into the cradle, just don't risk the hell out of the cradle locator bolts. Just enough to seat them is all you need. Make sure you use some blue Loctite. You're good. A lot of guys get in there and they just grip and rip on that thing, and what happens is it basically preloads the diff, and it can kind of screw with your pinion angle a little bit. So Just not a lot of risk. Just get them to seat slightly and leave them be. Let those locators just keep everything in line, but don't try to tweak anything or put anything under load, and you'll be good. Let's see. Oh, and if you want to run, like I said, a rear trailing arms or something like that, I hate to say it, man, but I would prefer to see BMRs on the back of them. I tested BMRs with the 392 with my white car Shalandra, and then I had BMRs were on the back of the Demon as well. They did good. They're still doing good, my understanding. Kevin's asking, hey Mason, within 2, yes, I want to mate the 5.7 Joker cam with that E-Force. Oh, yeah, no, that'll work out really good. That'll be a good blower cam. 5.7 Joker cam with the E-Force. Speaking, you'll be the first YouTuber to know about it until I bring it down from the Chicago area. Yeah, no, for sure, man. Let me know how it works out. But no, the Joker with that E-Force would work out real well. You know, good power down low. It'll kind of work in lockstep with it. You know, it'll limit the RPM capacity a little bit, but you've got enough duration in there. It'll work out just fine. Paul's asking, not the power I meant for the suspension. Oh, for the suspension and shocks. I'm not sure. That has to do with the body control module, and I don't know that they've got that cracked. I know that they were working on doing something with that to where you'd be able to run the Demon front shocks and rear shocks and be able to have the drag setup. I know some folks were working on that, but the jury was a little bit out as to whether or not that would even do any good, considering the number of guys that are running the Demon Killer springs, those Carlisle springs, and just running their suspension in street mode. It's kind of working out pretty good. So, something to consider. And right now, the fastest cars aren't running in any of the Demon stuff at all. I mean, they're running Demon springs, but yeah, obviously the Hellcat suspension setups, and you know, they're getting away with quite a bit. So we got some low 9-second and 8-second cars that are running with that suspension setup. So I just don't know that. I don't know, as they say, if juice is worth the squeeze in that respect. It may work out for some lower power levels, like at my power level, it might not work, but a little bit more power than my car is making, it might help a little bit, but that more power than my car is making is still less power than what some of the faster cars are making, and they're not using them. So, and they're really not the ones asking for it either, oddly enough. Racer, I say, what up, buddy? Just got off my live. Hope things are well. Hey, what's up, man? Hope things are going well. Things are going good, man. Let's wait for this DA to drop. Start making some powers. Try to put this thing closer to the 9s. A little stock boost monster that she is. But let's see. Oh, Racer saying, looks like we're both growing the burly beards these days. Better believe it. Got a jump start on No Shave November, so we're rocking it. But yeah, no. And that's, you know, the other thing too. You know, we're talking about the DA, but yeah, this thing's starting to come in pretty good. It's white though, so you can't even see it. I look like creepy Santa. Anyway, so when you're talking about getting your car ready for the upcoming race season, you know, the main thing, check your dates on the tires, guys. Make sure that you've got fresh tires on the back of these hot rods. But the other thing is this. Yeah, the basics really start to come into play here. And you're going to hear me hang on tires quite a bit because the bigger bulk of the problems that I've seen typically come from issues with tires. So make sure the tires are fresh. But if you're running in temperatures, like I was saying earlier, that 40 degree, 45 degree range and cooler, 50 also plays into this. Be mindful of your burnouts. Be mindful of track temperatures and tire temperatures. Make sure you get those bad boys nice and hot. It's not good enough to just see a little whiff of smoke and move forward. You're going to want to get the tires nice and hot, get a good amount of smoke going, at least a 5 to 7 second burnout. You know, get the things rolling for at least 5 to 7 seconds and then carry that up to your staging lights. What I've seen a lot of guys do is they'll go through the water box and, well, for one, they'll try to do the burnout in the water, which is like you know that's not where you do your burnout, right? Anyway, get the tires wet, roll up, start their burnout, and then just carry it up, and that was it. You don't see any smoke or anything. And a lot of times they're running on tires that have been sitting since last season. You know, they're just older tires. Maybe they didn't run very much during the summertime. This is cool weather now. Long story short, just make sure you're doing your due diligence and get those tires nice and warm before you make your hit. Track temps when they're low, that means your traction is going to be less. You got to be mindful of these type of things, not only at the launch, but on the back half of the track as well. It's another reason to get those tires nice and hot. You don't know what's going on with track prep. You need to find out real quick and plan your burnouts accordingly, which is to make sure that they are hot. So for our guys saying, if there was a dent in a carbon fiber piece, is there any way to get it out, or is it not possible on carbon fiber? Well, there is a way to get it out. It just won't look very good. It'll just require, you know, filling in that area. You'll have to scuff it up and fill it in with resin and then polish that out. That would be about the best thing you can do, the best way you can go about getting that out, but you still may see a little bit of an indentation on the backside. But you know, that requires building up the area and then sanding it down. Start out with, like, you know, 800 grit. After you've built it up, 800 grit, 1000 grit, 1200, 1500. Get it down to 2000 where it's nice and level, and then hit it with your polisher. And just the same way y'all saw me wet sanding the hood on this thing, it's not any different. It's still a resin. But as far as, you know, and some guys will go so far as to try to relay some carbon fiber on there. It may or may not work, but I mean, you can kind of make it work, but it's going to be a little bit of a hack anyway. But that's the best way I can try to explain how you can kind of fix if it's a, like, just kind of a bumped in dent. It takes a lot to do that to carbon fiber. Typically it'll crack, but anyway, there's little ways you can try to fix and fill in areas, but it's never going to be like it was before. White Knuckle RT saying, what's going on, Bright? Glad to see you are on tonight. What's up, White Knuckle? Got the arm flex, like, got the thumbs up. Good to see you on here too, man. Thanks for hanging out. Oh. David Goodson saying, how'd you like the spawn control arms and trailing arms on your SRT? Did it control wheel hop? They helped a little bit. The only downside to the spawn, if I'm being honest, man, they were just noisy. The BMRs were not noisy, but the spawns were. And if you saw the video of me doing that, like, how-to video, I took every precaution that I could to try to make those things as quiet as I could and not have any geometry deflection going on with those things. All the way down to getting, you know, a different style bolt and cutting the bolt down and doing all of that. They were okay at mitigating wheel hop by a little bit, but they didn't make it go away completely. And the only way to get it to go away completely is just to obviously adjust your tire pressure to, you know, manage the footprint of the tire onto the concrete. But aside from that, and being a little bit more noisy, I didn't see a whole lot out of the car. So much so that they stayed on the car when I got rid of that car. Let's see. David saying, I'm starting to get a little bit of wheel hop off the line when I've always hooked good before. I'm thinking I'm wearing some bushings out. Not necessarily. Check your tire pressures. Make sure those are consistent, but check your wear patterns on your tires also. You could be having a little bit more wear on the inside portion of your tire. That can cause a little bit more wheel hop to take place. So just take a look at that. Bushings, I doubt, are going to be worn out necessarily. These bushings in these cars are really stout. more than likely it's a tire pressure or it's a tire wear related issue more than it is anything else. DZ was saying, was running race stars on my narrow body Scat Pack and upgrading to a wide body Red Eye. What do you recommend for wheels? Well, I would say you could go with Weld makes a really nice looking wheel that works well on the back of those cars. You could go with really anything that's 11 inches wide. If you're running a wide body, I think you'll be in good shape with those. I think Ford Star makes a set. I know Weld makes a set. They're kind of pricey, but they look really good. Let's see. Race Stars has the that Spider, whatever it's called. Anyway, they're 10 or 10 and a half inches wide. So take a look at those too. But those would be some some directions I would kind of take you into. Let's see. Oh, White Knuckles asking, hey B, is it possible to run a 5.7 car intake on a Ram? Yeah, it's possible if you've got the tune to turn off the short runner actuator. But I don't know why you would want to do that, because the truck manifold is significantly better than the car manifold. It's the reason why the trucks make basically 400 horsepower and the cars make about 370, 380. It's really a little bit more like 390, but anyway, you get the idea. But the cars just don't make the power on the backside the way that the trucks do. But the cars make good power. But I wouldn't want to put a car intake over a truck intake. Wouldn't work out well. And guys, we are coming up on 2 hours. I have got to jump off here, but I want to thank each and every one of y'all for hanging out with me this evening. If you're going to send it, don't bend it. Keep your shiny side up. Love each and every one of y'all. Take care of yourself. Keep wearing your mask, if not for yourself, then for others. Again, thanks for hanging out. God bless, and thank y'all very much for those that were able to contribute to the cause. Your contribution dollars at work with these tires so far. Hoosiers are working great. We'll see how they last leading into January for that track rental. So hopefully we will be able to get you some good data moving forward this Friday with that tune revision. And we will catch y'all on the next one. That is a wrap. Catch you later. Adios.